Carl Jung's last caution to empaths was chilling. They're feeding on your light, and many don't even notice. In his private writings, Jung recorded a psychological pattern so unsettling he was reluctant to release it. He noted that empaths, individuals with profound emotional sensitivity, were being steadily depleted by what I term unconscious energy parasites. These figures were not blatant aggressors. They were frequently charismatic, wounded individuals who appeared to crave healing. Have you ever felt pulled toward someone who seemed vulnerable, only to notice your energy fading afterward? Comment 1 if you've ever confused that pull with real intimacy. Comment 2 if you've learned to spot the difference early. Yet Jung found something disturbing. These individuals had, without awareness, adapted to survive by consuming the spiritual energy of others, especially empaths, whose light shines the most. The most frightening element is its invisibility. The feeding occurs via emotional manipulation, posing as intimacy through trauma bonds misread as profound love, and by turning the empath's compassion into a weapon against them. He concluded, empaths were not merely drawing in difficult people by chance. They were being deliberately sought by those whose inner light had gone dark, and who could persist only by feeding on others' radiance. Come with me into psychology's shadowlands to reveal these unseen predators. Learn to spot their extraction tactics before they act, and uncover Jung's forbidden approach to shifting from prey to sovereign, while preserving the gift that makes you exceptional. Because Jung uncovered something that contemporary psychology still resists admitting. Empaths are not innately damaged. They are shaped by childhood trauma into ideal hosts for emotional parasites. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Yet his clinical observations revealed something darker. When an empath encounters an energy parasite, only one person changes, and it is never the parasite. Consider this from an evolutionary angle. Empaths' heightened sensitivity emerges as an adaptive survival strategy. The child who could read micro-expressions, predict mood swings, and register unspoken feelings was the one who endured turbulent homes. The tragedy is that the same mechanism that once protected you now acts as a beacon for adult predators who have learned to weaponize your gift. Dr. Judith Olaf's research corroborates Jung's observations. Empaths' mirror neurons activate more strongly than in most people. Does your body catch other people's feelings before your mind can process what's happening? Comment 1 if you often absorb emotions like they're your own. Comment 2 if you've built habits that keep you clear and centered. Your brain, quite literally, takes in others' emotions as though they were yours. Yet Jung recognized, often overlooked by therapists, that some individuals exploit this neurological sensitivity. They do not merely stumble into provoking your empathy. They deliberately activate it. They have at an unconscious level refined emotional manipulation that passes for closeness, trauma bonding, that looks like profound love, and energy extraction that you mistake for intimacy. Yet, that is not the most devastating element. If you've left certain people feeling utterly depleted and couldn't name the cause, note this to yourself: they were feeding on my light. The truly devastating dynamic is what Jung termed the shadow projection reversal. The energy parasite not only siphons your radiance, they persuade you that offering it is your mission. Jung repeatedly noted this pattern in his practice. He wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But with empaths and energy parasites, the flow flips. The parasite projects their emptiness onto the empath, making depletion seem ordinary, equating exhaustion with love, and treating sacrifice as devotion. Consider the last time you left someone utterly drained. Your body likely sent clear signals: sudden tiredness, emotional overload, tightness, or foggy thinking. Instead of heeding those alarms, you probably dismissed it as oversensitivity or overthinking. That is precisely the belief the energy parasite requires. Jung described this, what I observe, as the gaslight of the unconscious, when another shadow persuades your awareness that your intuition is at fault. Here's how the feeding cycle operates. And here is where Jung's observations become frighteningly exact. Stage 1. Light recognition. Energy parasites are unconsciously attracted to empaths, like moths to a flame. They read your emotional openness from across a room. Jung observed that narcissistic personalities possess a striking capacity to spot empaths at once. They detect the glow of someone who gives more than they receive, who feels intensely, who shoulders others' emotional burdens. Stage 2. Wound display. The parasite does not begin with demands. They begin with pain. They present their trauma struggles and deep emotions, mirroring your depth while concealing their emptiness. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Yet energy parasites have learned to become whoever you need them to be. Stage 3. Empathy activation. After securing your compassion, they commence systematic extraction, generating crisis after crisis, demanding your emotional labor, unloading trauma without reciprocity, and making you feel uniquely chosen for understanding what others could not. Jung observed that empaths often confuse being needed with being loved. Stage 4. Depletion, normalization. The most insidious phase. The parasite persuades you that your exhaustion is evidence of profound connection, that overwhelm equals love, and that your distress proves you're simply highly sensitive, rather than being systematically drained. Here is where Jung's insight becomes transformative. He did not reduce this to interpersonal dysfunction. He recognized it as an archetypal pattern, the wounded healer encountering the shadow devourer. Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." For empaths, this requires acknowledging that compassion can be turned against you, that your gift can become confinement, and that your light can be consumed unless you learn protection. In Jungian psychology, every archetype bears a shadow. The empath's shadow is not cruelty. It is the unconscious need to be needed and attachment to fixing others, because usefulness feels safer than true visibility. The fear of abandonment runs so deep that emotional vampirism is tolerated over the risk of solitude. Energy parasites are not villains consciously scheming your ruin. They are unconscious personalities, propelled by what Jung termed the shadow's hunger for wholeness. They detect in you what they have exiled in themselves: genuine feeling, authentic connection, and emotional depth. Rather than doing the inner work to reclaim these qualities, they have learned to take them from other people. They draw on your emotional energy because they are severed from their own. They bask in your radiance because their inner flame is out. This produces what I term the psychological vampire effect. The more energy you offer, the greater their hunger. The more you attempt to heal, the more damaged they appear. The more light you provide, the thicker their shadow becomes. This is not due to innate malice, but to a structural, psychological incompleteness. They have disowned their capacity for authentic feeling, and thus must continually source it from outside themselves, like someone without a digestive system who must keep eating, yet never feels full. This leaves you at what I call the empath's impossible choice. You sense their pain, emptiness, and desperate need for your light. Your compassion urges you to help, to heal, to rescue them from darkness. But Jung found a principle that changes everything. You cannot heal someone by permitting them to consume your essence. You cannot love a person into wholeness while they siphon your light. Have you stayed in a relationship hoping your care would finally heal the other person? Comment 1 if you've been there and felt drained. Comment 2 if you chose boundaries and saw the dynamic change. You cannot rescue someone unconsciously committed to remaining lost. Consider how this pattern appears across contexts. The romantic energy vampire Emma met John at a spiritual retreat. He appeared deep, sensitive, and wounded in a way that activated her healing instincts. He disclosed childhood trauma battles with depression and a quest for meaning. Emma felt chosen, unique, as the one who genuinely understood him. Yet within months, she was perpetually depleted. After their talks, John phoned during work with fresh emotional emergencies, unloading for hours without asking about her day. When she attempted to share, he minimized her concerns or redirected the focus to his suffering. Applying Jung's principles, Emma recognized John was not pursuing healing, but supply. Her empathy functioned as his drug. Her emotional labor became his crutch. When she started enforcing boundaries, John's mask fell. He labeled her cold, uncaring, and not who he believed she was. The reality, Emma had ceased serving as his emotional food source, and his unconscious sought another host. The family energy parasite Michael's mother had always been emotionally intense. She called him with crisis after crisis, instilling a sense of responsibility for her well-being. If he didn't respond at once, she induced guilt for abandoning her. She even threatened suicide when he attempted to set limits. Jung would identify this as the devouring mother archetype, the parent who unconsciously consumes the child's life force rather than nourishing it. Michael's empathy had been weaponized against him from early on. Understanding energy parasitism helped him see his fatigue was not filial failure, but the consequence of systematic depletion by someone who never learned emotional self-regulation. Establishing boundaries with his mother felt like betrayal, yet it was in fact self-preservation. The workplace emotional vampire Lisa had a colleague perpetually in crisis. This person dominated team meetings with personal drama, sought Lisa for prolonged support sessions, and converted their dysfunction into everyone else's emergency. The insidious twist was the framing the colleague cast this pattern as sensitivity and depth, presenting themselves as the emotional soul in a cold corporate culture. Lisa's innate empathy left her feeling obliged to offer limitless emotional labor. Jung would interpret this as projection. The colleague unconsciously assigned their emotional dysregulation to others, while adopting the role of victim in an unfeeling world. Here, Jung's warning turns urgent the longer energy parasites feed on your light. The more you fuse with their shadow, you begin to accept the projection that your purpose is to meet others' emotional needs. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." For empaths, this entails seeing that the drive to heal others often springs from unhealed personal wounds. Empathy's shadow is the unconscious conviction that you only matter if you are useful, that love is earned through service, and that your worth rests in absorbing and processing other people's pain. This belief system renders you the ideal host for energy parasites. You supply limitless emotional labor while naming it love, drain your own reserves while calling it compassion, and surrender your well-being under the banner of spiritual growth. Yet Jung identified a truth that can permanently shift your self-understanding. Your light is not meant to be consumed by others. It is meant to illuminate your own path toward wholeness. Continually expending your energy on others isn't true love. It's an evasion of the difficult task of cultivating self-love. An obsessive focus on fixing others often functions as an escape from confronting and healing your own injuries. Energy parasites facilitate spiritual bypassing by offering you a perpetual rescue project. They supply constant turmoil that distracts you from meeting your inner shadows, and they cast you as a martyr so you can avoid stepping into sovereignty over your life. Here is Jung's approach to guarding your inner light while keeping your heart open, what I call the light method. L. Learn to discern energy signatures. Jung highlighted the role of feeling-toned complexes. Each person has a distinct energetic imprint that with attuned empathy you can perceive. Your body registers energy parasites differently from healthy individuals. After interacting with parasites, you're likely to feel depleted, anxious, muddled, or emotionally overpowered. With healthy people, you leave feeling invigorated, clear calm, or inspired. Begin tracking your somatic state before, during, and after engagements with various people. Your body serves as a refined radar. If you trust its cues, it will help you identify energy parasites. I. Integrate your shadow. Jung regarded shadow work as indispensable to mental health. For empaths, this entails acknowledging the parts that crave being needed. Fear abandonment and assume love must be earned through constant service. Ask, what satisfaction do I gain from being indispensable to wounded people? In what ways does rescuing others let me sidestep my own healing? Which childhood injury am I attempting to mend vicariously through them? The aim is not to erase these impulses, but to bring them into awareness so they no longer covertly determine your relational patterns. G. Guard your sacred energy. Jung wrote, "Your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakens." Defending your energy is not selfish. It is a spiritual obligation. Practically, this involves declining, depleting emotional labor, refusing to hold others' unprocessed feelings, and selecting relationships that replenish rather than exhaust you. Your vitality is both limited and sacred. Any time spent metabolizing another's shadow is time diverted from cultivating your own radiance. H. Honor your authentic nature. Energy parasites gravitate toward empaths who shrink themselves for others' comfort. The more you conceal your gifts, dismiss your intuition, or downplay your sensitivity, the more you invite those who seek to devour what you're suppressing. Jung's concept of individuation is the process of becoming your authentic self, rather than conforming to others' needs. For empaths, that means claiming sensitivity as strength, honoring intuition as wisdom, and wielding your gift deliberately, rather than by compulsion. T. Transform trauma into wisdom. Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." This self-acceptance includes recognizing that energy parasites targeted you, not due to weakness, but because you hold something valuable that the unconscious attempt to consume. Your empathy likely emerged as a survival strategy. Now it must mature into intentional practice. You can sense others' emotions without internalizing them, extend compassion without self-erasure, and assist without draining your own reserves. When you bring Jung's principles into your relationships, the dynamic shifts. You cease magnetizing energy parasites and begin attracting conscious partners who meet your emotional depth without exhausting your reserves. Jung cautioned that during this shift, Energy parasites often intensify their tactics once they feel you are no longer a viable source. They may manufacture larger emergencies, threaten self-harm, and label you as cold selfish or inauthentic. They will attempt to guilt you into re-entering the pattern by foregrounding their pain trauma and dependence. Jung's notion, what I refer to as the shadow's extinction burst, explains why, when feeding is blocked, parasites grow more frantic and manipulative. Paradoxically, this escalation indicates your boundaries are effective, even if it feels like you're being harsh. Hold steady. Their intensification reflects dependence on your energy, not a judgment of your worth. You are not obliged to regulate their feelings once you stop serving as their emotional receptacle. Healthy individuals will honor your limits, applaud your development, respect your need for space, endorse your healing, and reciprocate the emotional investment you offer. Crucially, you must embody what you seek. To invite conscious relationships, cultivate your own consciousness. To experience reciprocity, practice receiving, as well as giving. To find authentic love, present your genuine self, rather than acting out roles others expect. Jung recognized that safeguarding your light is at core a spiritual struggle. He wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Energy parasites benefit from your remaining diminished, exhausted, and unaware of your power. When you defend your energy and set limits, you alter more than relationships. You enter what I call a struggle for your soul. This is not metaphor. Your essence and life force are at stake. Parasites deploy every tactic to retain access to your light guilt. After all, I've revealed you'll abandon me. Shame, I thought you were more compassionate. Fear, you're selfish and will end up alone. Manufactured urgency, I need you right now. And identity assaults. This isn't the real you. Jung offered the decisive countermeasure: consciousness. Once you perceive manipulation clearly, its hold diminishes. In reality, each refusal of energetic exploitation affirms your growth. Every boundary is a ballot cast for your authentic self. Declining to shrink your light for others' comfort is a choice for spiritual development, not stagnation. This does not require emotional chilliness. It calls for discernment. You learn to distinguish true compassion from codependent caregiving, and to support others without self-harm. Jung observed a transformative truth. A self-possessed empath destabilizes systems rooted in unconsciousness. An empath immune to manipulation, depletion, and control challenges any relational structure founded on imbalance. You function as a mirror, highlighting others' unconscious patterns, and as a boundary compelling them to own their emotional regulation. An awakened empath not only safeguards their light, but also serves as a beacon, modeling how others can ignite their inner flame. You shift from being a consumable resource to becoming a catalyst for growth. This evolution demands courage. Many empaths fear accepting that unconscious people may dislike you, releasing relationships sustained by your depletion, and choosing solitude over self-betrayal for counterfeit connection. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." As an awakened empath, you can sustain relationships only with those devoted to their own development. Others naturally drift away. This is not failure, but discernment. Not loss, but emancipation. Not loneliness, but sovereignty. Share below if you've been labeled selfish for establishing boundaries with energy vampires. My energy is sacred. You'll find you prefer a single genuine bond over many draining ties. Recognize that the quality of presence outweighs head count, and grasp that your light is too sacred to be spent on those who avoid their own inner work. Jung outlined 3 stages of empath development. Locating yourself within them helps you advance toward genuine energetic sovereignty. Level 1. The unconscious empath. You sense everything, yet comprehend little. You take in others' emotions unwittingly, feel perpetually depleted, and fault yourself for being too sensitive. Lacking protection of your gifts, you draw in parasites. Here, empathy governs you. You cannot tune it like a radio, catching all frequencies without selectivity. The remedy is to build emotional boundaries and learn to differentiate your own feelings from those you absorb. Level 2. The conscious empath. You acknowledge your empathy and wield it deliberately. You register others' emotions without automatically internalizing them, employ basic energetic safeguards, and uphold some boundaries with parasites. At this stage, you start distinguishing empathy from codependency. You can extend care without depletion, yet guilt may still surface when you set limits, and occasional regressions occur. Level 3. The sovereign empath. With shadow integrated, you claim empathy as a spiritual capacity, not a burden. You feel profoundly without self-loss and draw conscious individuals who reciprocate emotionally. Here, empathy functions as discernment instead of a manipulation snare. You can detect authentic versus performed emotion and provide healing presence without adopting others' wounds. Progression from level 1 to level 3 requires what I term the courage to disappoint, the willingness to disappoint parasites seeking unlimited access relatives, accustomed to using you as an emotional regulator, and societal norms expecting empaths to be perpetually available. Jung's final caution, after you start guarding your light unconscious empathy, is no longer possible. Feeding patterns once recognized cannot be unseen. Sovereignty once experienced makes a return to emotional servitude impossible. This awareness may end relationships, unsettle your identity, and compel you to face inner parts that prefer being needed over respected, useful over authentic, and depleted over solitary. Some may misuse this insight to erect walls instead of boundaries, adopt cynicism toward connection rather than discernment about energy, and mistake emotional detachment for spiritual fortitude. Avoid that error. The aim is not to numb feeling or care, but to engage both consciously with intention and wisdom rather than through compulsion or unconscious habit. Jung's culminating admonition: the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Achieving that requires relinquishing the persona you maintain for others' comfort. Your light is not fuel for consumption, but a presence to inhabit. Your empathy isn't a perpetual service. It is a gift to offer with awareness. The world has enough exhausted healers. It needs awakened empaths who can distinguish love from enabling compassion, from codependency, and service from self-erasure. If others change their behavior once you ceased being their emotional receptacle, comment, "They sensed my awakening before I announced it." Recall Jung's unsettling observation about empaths being fed upon the so-called energy parasites. Aren't monsters, but unconscious people who've learned to survive by feeding on others' light instead of nurturing their own inner flame. Jung noted in his final writings, the greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. Accordingly, you won't fix energy parasites by healing them. You outgrow the attachment to being needed by them. Jung grasped a crucial reversal. Safeguarding your light doesn't shrink it, it strengthens it. By ending others' access to your energy, you reclaim vitality for your growth, healing, and evolution. An empath who protects their gifts isn't less compassionate. They are more discerning, sharing light with those who can receive, without draining, appreciate without consuming, and match without dimming it. Jung's ultimate caution extends beyond defense against parasites. It's a call to claim your birthright as a conscious agent who chooses how to deploy your gifts rather than giving them away on autopilot. Your sensitivity isn't a curse to contain, but a superpower to refine. Your empathy isn't a liability to conceal, but a strength to exercise intentionally. Your light is not fuel for someone else's darkness. It is illumination for your own journey toward wholeness. The parasites Jung described feed only on unawakened empaths. As you recognize your true nature, protect your essence, while still sharing your gifts, and assume sovereignty over your energy, you become immune to their methods. This is the highest protection, not building walls against all, but cultivating awareness that admits only love. If you are an empath, awareness that admits only love must become operational, not ornamental. In Jung's terms, individuation asks you to relocate the center of gravity from the persona that rescues to the self that discerns. That shift turns compassion from a reflex into a choice. It also dissolves the shadow contract that has powered the feeding the unconscious vow, I will keep you stable, so I'm not abandoned. When you see that vow, you can rewrite it. I offer presence, not self-erasure. Love remains. Leakage ends. Your body is the earliest witness. In your story, the parasite's cycle blurred crises into closeness. Your nervous system never agreed. Track 3 somatic markers after contact. 1. Sudden fatigue. 2. Cognitive fog. 3. Pressured urgency to fix. That triad is not intimacy, it's extraction. Treat it as a red light. Jung said the psyche speaks in symbols. Your body is the symbol made flesh. Next, reverse the shadow projection in real time. When the energy parasite frames your exhaustion as proof of devotion, name the move. That's depletion, not love. Language is containment. Containment breaks the trance. Do not argue biography. Do not adjudicate who suffered more. Return to the field between you and define terms. I can witness your pain. I cannot carry it. Watch how the dynamic loses voltage when your sentence includes both compassion and limit. Then, balance eros and logos. Jung's shorthand for relatedness and discrimination. Empaths overdevelop eros and underuse logos in the name of kindness. Bring them into dialogue. My empathy feels you. My judgment decides for me. That inner connectio is not coldness. It is coherence. Parasites hook incoherence. Apply this to your examples. John's emergencies became the funnel for your light. A sovereign empath sets 2-gate scope. I can listen for 20 minutes and reciprocity. Next time I'll share, you'll listen. When the mask drops, do not chase the mask. Exit the field. With the devouring mother pattern name, the archetype privately, so guilt returns to context, not command. Offer care. Refuse responsibility for regulation. In the workplace, move from endless processing to clear containers, time-bound, agenda-bound, role-bound. Compassion inside form is compassion that survives. Finally, enact a simple ritual of energetic audit for each key bond. Ask weekly, does this connection leave me clear, warm, and resourced? If the answer is no, 3 times running, you must change the terms or change the tie. This is not punishment. It is stewardship of a scarce, sacred resource, your light. Here is the paradox Jung foresaw. When you stop being feedable, you become more loving, not less. Your presence grows denser. Your no makes your yes believable, and your gift stops masquerading as penance. The empath is not a well for others to drink dry. The empath is a flame that knows how to burn without being consumed. When you master this, you won't mistake exhaustion for love being needed for being valued, or depletion for devotion. Jung's message was plain: they are feeding on your light. His assurance was plainer still: you can end it. If this description fits, you know you're not alone. Thousands of empaths are identifying these dynamics and taking back their power. Share one boundary you're prepared to set to protect your light. Your example may be the catalyst. Another empath needs to start their path toward energetic sovereignty. If you want to explore Jung's psychology in contemporary relationships, watch my video on why motivation wanes after confronting the shadow, Carl Jung psychology, where I explain what happens to drive and ambition once shadow integration begins. Thank you for watching. See you in the next dimension. What's one boundary you'll set this week to protect your light? Comment 1. If you'll limit how much emotional labor you give. Comment 2. If you'll reserve your energy for relationships that truly reciprocate.